The Bill Clark Show, presented by Dr. Pepper. And now, Coach Bill Clark.
Welcome in. It's the Coach Bill Clark Show, presented by Buffalo Rock, Dr. Pepper, Molly Robinson, along with Landrum Roberts. I'm Pat. That's Coach Bill Clark. Welcome into the program. It is Masters Week. You ever been to Augusta?
I never have. I always
What?
wanted to go. I know. It's sad, isn't
I
it?
thought you'd be like an honorary member, a marshal on a hole, something.
Caddy, something.
But you've always wanted to go.
I always wanted to go.
You know, it's crazy. I know Landrum's been multiple times. My dad used to go over there all the time. And I was very young in this business, and you would have thought that I would have been able to get a credential. Paul would go over there. He would do the show from there.
Right.
Like every April. I've never been over there, even for a practice round or nothing.
Right.
I never took advantage of my dad going over there or Paul going over there. And I'm like you. I'd love to go. Just
Let's go.
Never gone.
It was one of the few sports venues or events that exceeded my expectations.
Yeah.
You know, you build it up in your mind. A lot of times you build it up to
Right.
where you're never going to be able to meet or exceed those expectations you placed on yourself. Augusta did. And it wasn't like just the first time. The next time I was fortunate enough to get invited, it was still as magical and wonderful. I encourage you to be able to go.
Well, I tell you the thing, as we talk to different groups and leadership and training your folks and whatever, but the expertise that goes in to keep that thing, the perfection of how it's run. And they keep it and and that's what I hear about. Just the organization is such a cool when you're dealing with that and you keep doing it and you got such a high standard and you keep that standard.
Well, it was like yesterday on Sunday, as we're taping this on Monday, but on Sunday, I watched the very end of the Valero Open in San Antonio. And granted, they had some bad weather out in Texas, but the course looked like a municipal golf course.
Yeah.
And just think about those golfers that go from that course to Augusta this week. It is just like, oh my goodness, unbelievable.
Yeah, daylight and dark. But that pristine conditions that they're able to keep year after year and time after time,
And the teamwork involved.
Right.
When you see the support staff, and I'm not kidding, when you go to Augusta, even for something like the public restroom, you go in, there is a team of people, cleaning people, waiting for each wave to leave the restroom before the next wave. And you're not waiting long for the restroom.
Right.
It's clockwork. It's fascinating. And I can see from your perspective, from an organizational standpoint, you'd be eat up with it. You would love it.
I think, and I've just been a student of leadership, military leadership. And, and I was reading something I thought was very interesting the other day. I was talking about what was the difference with the U.S. and the Germans and the other, is that how all our leaders were trained in the logistics of understanding fuel for tanks and fuel for ships, and they understood what that lifeline looked like.
Yeah,
they were saying the only guy that had not gone through that training was Patton. As great as he was, and that, he outran his fuel a few times.
Yeah,
which, but he's still great. But understanding that part of it, it's kind of like I said about a coach who's had to work his way up.
yeah.
Just like taping ankles, weight room, track. All those pieces for me always made me. One, I had an appreciation, and two, I wanted to know about each one. And when they would talk to me, I'm like, yeah, I've done that.
Yeah.
You bring that up about Patton. Would that be, if we were going football, is that the guy on your defense that see ball, get ball? Like, he has a hard time with some concepts, but by golly, we need him out there because he's got so much raw talent. He's going to go up, maybe. I don't know. I was trying to make a comparison.
I think it's a comparison for anybody that's really good at what they do, but, got all these ragged edges.
Yeah.
We got those players. We got, coach who's a really good pass rush specialist or a defensive guy. Maybe he doesn't know the whole picture yet. I've said this. I know I've said this story before. I remember my dad had been at small school, brilliant, great coach. Was basketball at Alabama, coached. Young coach to moving on, but he gets with me at problem, and I was trying to get it. And I was just, one of my big things was how many people could I get to help us that I could train, because we had so many players, and that grew more players. And so, he's like, well, this guy right here is not very good at blank. I'm like, I don't need him to be. You know, in the small school level, you got 4 or 5 guys, and they all had to coach both sides of the ball. And those guys had to be really good. I said, I don't need him to do. I just need him to do this. You know, now he can grow to other things, and so then it's the communication. So that's that whole the people within your sphere of okay. You got the defensive ends, you got the receivers, you got recruiting, you got, and then keeping them all on that same page. But the logistics of whatever, you know, the Masters. That's a cool deal.
All right. Final question about the Masters. You said that you always wanted to go. As far as bucket list sports things for you to do, Bill Clark, what was always on your list as a small kid?
Yeah, no doubt Wimbledon.
Wimbledon.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm definitely
Wow.
going to do that. Wimbledon every year. Just, you know, it's just funny how
Do you play tennis now?
you know, not much. I did growing
Okay.
up, like playing.
But you appreciate
played
it.
in college, you know, some, and but just loved it. And obviously that time of McEnroe and Bjorg was such a cool
Jimmy
time.
Connors.
You know, Jimmy Connors and
Von Lindell.
yeah, McEnroe though at that time, and it was America.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, of course, I've always been just anything to do with the country and Olympics and
All right. So Wimbledon,
Wimbledon,
Masters, what else?
Masters, Kentucky Derby.
Okay.
What about Olympics?
You know, I got to go to the Olympics
that's
in
right.
Atlanta, you know, once or twice, saw some things there. But I mean, yeah, I love the idea of events. I feel the same way with college football now.
You know, I am
I'd love to go.
surprised that maybe, well, let's see, probably because the timing for you to, well, obviously you're a little busy with spring football during the Masters, but maybe the Kentucky Derby, you'd have been able to kind of finagle your way there.
No, you know, and it was just one of them things. I had guys that would go.
Oh,
and
Derby's
say,
a good one.
you need to go. And I think now I've got to say next year I'm going to the Masters. I've got to start doing some things like that, you know, but here we are getting Coach Safely really rolling. There's been a new thing come in there, but I love the idea. You know, I've got to go to the Red Sox this year, you know, y'all remember when I went over there?
Yeah.
So, you know, that was just to see the venue, to see all the things around it. And then you put all that history around it, which I love. So yeah, I'd say those are my top 3.
If I ask the question to both of you though, because you brought something up, I'm not huge into tennis. I enjoy it when I play, but I would enjoy playing golf more. But if I had to choose between Open Championship at St. Andrews and Wimbledon, I think I would actually go Wimbledon.
I'm with you 100%. I just don't, I'm not a friend. I'm not a fan of the links courses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. Wimbledon.
I like
is just,
trees.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm a good old Southern boy.
There you go. There you go. Masters. There we go.
We should be doing the show today from the Masters.
If we're still around next year. There we go.
He thinks we won't hold him to that. Molly's already clipping the audio right now.
Yes.
Well, people at Augusta National, they need to coach safely, I would think.
I think so.
Right?
You should have worked that in on your Georgia group once Georgia agreed to coach safely.
I know it. Well, we can always add it
later.
Yes.
Well, one thing we don't have to add, and that is Donahue Chevrolet. And I know you came in here. It's looking good. Pollen free.
Yeah.
Good looking vehicle.
Yes. Wash and a rain always helps. But our friends at
More
Donahue.
the rain than the wash.
Yeah, it's either one, however that works out. But our friends at Donahue, and obviously we got a broken mic here. We keep having to work through. But our friends at Donahue Chevrolet, ridiculous deals. So appreciate those guys.
You got a hubcap that keeps falling off over
Yeah,
here.
it keeps. But we're gonna play through it. We're gonna play hurt.
That's right.
That's the way we do it here on the Bill Clark Show. All right, so we got 2 spring practices, scrimmages in the books for Alabama, 1 for Auburn. Bama's A-Day is coming up on Saturday. Just a little disclaimer for fans out there that are going to watch a scrimmage on Saturday at Bryant-Denny Stadium. What should the fans really expect when you go to one of these things?
You know, the playbooks are limited. You know, I think we said this in the last show, which I think maybe we see some better ball. Obviously, they're playing and they're not hiding, which is where we were all kind of headed to. What does that look like? But you don't want to look at individual performances. You know, I think you're going to look for the run game at Alabama. You're going to look for physicality. I'm sure this is their chance to do that, but it's going to be very basic. But we're always looking for individual performances.
Is there one position that lends itself to maybe being more of an accurate read of what you're going to get in the fall than another?
You know, I think up front, the how the O-line, the D-line play, running backs, I think those things that we're always looking at quarterback management, how they manage the game, their accuracy. I think things that aren't X and O centric, they're not, what are we going to do? What does tempo look? I mean, you're not going to see any of that, Now, I'm sure in their minds they feel like, why can't I show something when they've done all the things they've done the year before? But you're definitely not going to say anything new. And some of it is we want to line up and let them play. That's a lot of it. We don't want a guy to get tricked. We want to see him play the blocks. We want to see a defensive player play a block, an offensive guy block, which doesn't mean, there's going to be a trick player too. Hey, y'all got one on this side and one on the other side. But it's to let them play. What do they do under the lights? I saw a Dan Mullen quote. Probably saw that where he was talking about his quarterback. He's not good in 7-on-7. He's not good here, but when it's 11-on-11, this guy's good.
Yeah.
And I think that's what you're looking for. Who plays well in a game situation?
Any time in your career when you went to a spring game, did you have to basically call the dogs off? And what I mean by that is like, okay, we can't be as physical on this scrimmage because either one, you've had a very physical camp.
Yeah.
Maybe got a couple bumps or bruises, or you just were so concerned about what your team was potentially going to look like in the fall that you kind of had to be a little bit more careful going into that spring game.
Yeah, we had the 14. I was the good Lord. We got rained out, and
I remember that.
And I tell the story, Troy was coming to watch us, and I was going to have to show something. But yeah, I think it's been, if I could just get to half, I said, if I could just get to half, have a normal first half. And a lot of times, we ran the clock in the second half, but you want to give everybody opportunity. And that's the only thing is I want to give everybody an opportunity. And there's going to be somebody in there that shines that we weren't expecting it, but that's more game reps, even as we get into the third and the fourth quarter for a lot of those young guys.
Did you ever have a guy that maybe struggled, didn't do as well in team leading up to your spring scrimmage or maybe your first official big scrimmage that really showed out that you hadn't seen in any of that individual work?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, just guys that were just gamers.
Just showed up, light came on.
Yeah, and some of that always related to maybe they did not understand how to practice. Because, y'all been in my practices. Those practices really, it's a test.
Yeah. The game was fun compared to practice.
The game was fun. You start talking about individual, pre-practice and special teams and, especially if they play on a bunch of special teams. They're in all these special teams. Then you got Indy. Then you got inside and half line and perimeter and situations. And, it's a grind versus just going out there and playing. And, a lot of that, too, especially for guys who are new to the program, a lot of times they struggle with the consistency throughout a practice, but you just turn them loose and they play 10 snaps, whatever it is. You may have 5 big plays or something because they got that kind of ability.
Can I ask you a pedestrian question? I don't know if I've ever asked you this before. Let's say a quarterback has no physical limitations, okay? Do you ever put them, especially during spring, a pitch count, so to speak, in regards to how many number of throws quarterbacks get during spring? Do you understand my question? I'm thinking from a baseball vernacular.
Yeah.
Saving the arm.
Correct.
Like, do you have,
Yeah, we would do that because we would throw so much in practice and we would come back on maybe let's say it was a Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, and on Thursday we're going to cut back.
Okay.
Yeah.
No,
especially anybody that had any kind of, and you just had those guys that would have issues, that would have some kind of.
It seems like that's just.
It's the same theory.
Okay.
Same exact theories as
I've never asked you that before.
Yeah.
But me being always so cognizant,
Yeah.
even with my kids coaching baseball, how many throws per week, how much stress you're putting on the arm, and you're just thinking about that quarterback just going through just drill after drill after drill.
Yeah. You just, and everything's got a ball. You're throwing bubble screens out there working on perimeter blocking. You're throwing routes on air. Mm-hmm. I was always, and I've told you that, like, all right, it's routes on air, which means we're throwing routes and catching the ball. And I'd be like, it's 100%.
Yeah.
And they'd look at me like, I said, it's 100%. It's on air, And so, but yeah, I think there was anything that was chance for injury or preventive or being smart, especially with tempo and how we practice, because we'd be going 1s and 2s here and 3s and 4s down. 4 plays. you got to look at all those things, and especially soft tissue. You know, I know me and Coach Gross were talking about that at Samford. They really had a really good off season, and the volume of work they're getting now, and they were starting to see some of the soft tissue, you know, because you're just not used to that.
Yeah.
And they're getting so many reps, which is what you want to do.
Do you think he had pitch counts on kickers
No pitch counts on kickers.
or punters?
No.
He would tell them, learn to kick with your left leg.
We treat our specialists very well.
Very special.
Very
They just had to do what everybody else did. They worked hard.
They got no special treatment.
Correct. And you know, but that paid off for them. They were considered part of the team. So if that something did happen, they did the running, they did the workouts, they did the other things. Now they weren't, you know, but if we ran a pursuit drill, we'd use a specialist.
Yeah.
You know, if we did, but they were valuable. We weren't going to go out there and try and hurt them, but I wanted them to be part of the team. And I think that's why, one, I think they perform when they need to perform, but also it was just they're just another part of the team.
Tommy, you know, well, we had all those extra weights. You're playing D-line this week. Congratulations.
I thought you was going to say they were tackling dummies.
Oh, that too.
All right. One thing's for sure is Smart Bank is the place folks need to go for their banking needs.
Yeah, you know, just Smart Bank, you know, especially our branch here in Birmingham has done so well. But relationships, all the things you can get in a big bank and with a smaller bank, but specifically knowing who the customers are and having a relationship.
Coach, I wanted to ask you about spring football. We were having this conversation off the air before we started recording, and watching the UFL this year, it doesn't matter if you're playing Pee Wee football, flag football for a Parks and Rec somewhere, high school, obviously college, and now the UFL. If you don't have an elite quarterback, things are going to look a little bit disjointed. And so far, out of the gate, the first 2 weeks of the UFL, the explosive offense just has not come. Now, as the old adage, defense is always well ahead of the offense. You think that might be the case here, or it's just the fact that maybe the quarterback play might not be what we've been used to in this spring league?
Probably both.
Okay.
I think both. You know, I think defense early usually. You know, now some people say it's the other way around. You know, I know Brother Oliver and I used to talk about playing Steve Spurrier. You know, and he was like, "Man, I hate playing that guy early because there's no film." You know, he's come up with all these ideas in the offseason. I need him to at least play some games for, you know, but I think defense, but I do think the quarterbacks and you know, as they go, maybe the experience and whatever. But, you know, you made the point off the air. There's a lot of pro teams and a lot of backups, and their backups they're eating up. You just, you know, and I thought Skip always did a good job. You know, a lot of times, you know, he had his own guy, which was huge.
Yeah.
Who was that tweener? Who was right close, great college quarterback, right close to being an NFL guy, but just wasn't quite good enough, but the perfect guy for that league.
Well, it kind of puts it in perspective when you see, I mean, some of the who's who names from the SEC in the past and even the Big Ten, and these guys playing in that league and still at times struggling to play at a high level.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think anytime, once again, pro league is, you know, they're all different. They're all a little bit different, but you know, coaching is coaching. You know, who understands how to work with, who understands the quarterback position, but you put all the things around it: offense, you know, I mean, defense, special teams, run game. You know, I saw a good quote the other day. You know, hey, meet your best friends, the defense and the run game. You know, to the quarterback. You know, I think that was Signetti. You know, but you try and surround that quarterback with as much as you can give him, but the guy with the talent. You know, in the end, that tilts the field.
Do you believe that ultimately, not so much this rendition of a spring football league, but do you believe that there are enough good football players out there where this league or any league in spring football, that there's a market for that?
I do. You know, I think there is enough if they do it right. You know, my problem with these guys is you got to get in the community. You know, that's the one thing we said. And that was the one thing we thought with Stallions that we were going to get to, and we were close. You know, we had them here, you know, and I was going to be part of that. You know, hey, let's get them in the community. Let's do all the things you need to do of selling. And we had good attendance, could have had great attendance if we'd have just done like with some concerts and all these other cool things. And that's what each one of those places need, which would bring more fans, which would bring more revenue. Granted, TV's TV, but I think if they would just have done that, or maybe, you know, there's hope, but I still think there's enough players, in my opinion, and I think that's where we were before with the league.
I think community's so important because you look at a franchise like St. Louis and taking a town that remembers when it had a football team, a professional football team, and a lot of those fans, they appreciate it, and they showed it by showing up for all the Battlehawks games. Right. But that's ingrained in that community. That happened organically over time, but to your point, maybe more community involvement, that certainly helps. And I know that AJ and the coaching staff, they've done their best when here in town, but the team not being located here physically on a full-time basis goes along with a lot.
Yeah, and the coach can do shows and he can do, but they need to be here, and they need to have a home base, and they need to get in the community. They need to go to schools. They need to do all those things, and then you make it like we said. It's a party. It's having a game too.
Right, an event within an event.
That's it. You put all these other things around it, which we're all looking for good, clean fun, and finish up with a concert and some fireworks. I mean, how many home games do you play? Yeah. It's not hard.
America.
Did you ever come up here with your brother and your dad for the original Stallions?
We did.
Back in the mid-'80s?
Yeah. Yeah, I still remember Spurrier was coaching
Tampa Bay.
Mm-hmm. And I remember that game. It was a good crowd.
Yeah. Lee Corso was the head coach of the Orlando Renegades. Of course, Donald Trump owned the New Jersey Generals.
Yeah, and it was exciting.
Yeah.
What do you have, Flutie and Herschel?
Flutie and Herschel played for Trump, and then you had Jim Kelly playing for the Houston Gamblers. You had Steve Young at the LA Express.
Right.
It was
right.
The league was real.
It was.
It was good stuff.
Yeah. I was laughing. You think Trump wasn't going to go try and win, and and now our good friend Daryl Johnson, who was their great football guy.
Yeah.
As good as they come, and within the confines of what they were doing, I thought he did a great job, and
you just wonder what would have happened if there had not been the merger.
Right.
Oh, I was in the middle of it with him, thinking, and I really thought we might get the first team. We talked about it. There was a lot of discussions about us getting the first team.
And what Coach is referring to is that the original idea, because I'll never forget when it was the announcement of the Stallions coming back, that the original plan was about a year into it, that individual franchises would be sold to a local investment group.
Correct. So
that's where the local tie-in. And I know you were heavily involved in some of those discussions.
Oh gosh, I really thought it was going to happen, and I just thought it was going to be great, and to have Daryl and those guys. Obviously, I had Zach Woodfin, who's with the Titans now, who would play, played for me and coached for me, who was a strength coach for the whole league, and we were going to be the first. Being right here, I thought it was going to be great, and then the
merger happened.
And the merger happened, and it was going to be a USFL with XFL under it, and I think it obviously went the other way. It went the other way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Millions of dollars, I'm guessing, helped to influence that.
Yeah. Obviously you got The Rock and his all his wares and things.
By the way, is he still affiliated with the league at all?
I haven't seen him because I think Rapoli
that's the share that he took over.
So.
Yeah. I know that was the deal though. It was him and his star power was kind of what tilted it.
Yeah. from
what I understood, but of course, they moved, and obviously we had a leg up being right here. And I would have loved to have seen it, and I think we were the perfect spot for it. Would have been a great place to kick it off and just see how it went.
Yeah.
I just imagine those commercials. Coach Clark.
Oh, it'd be great.
On the back of a horse in a cowboy hat.
That's right.
Giddy up. I'll see you at Protective this weekend.
That's right. Whatever it takes.
# giddy up.
Webb Concrete Building Supplies, another great title sponsor here at the show.
Yeah. Webb Concrete for years. Now they have all the things for your house, commercial, residential, everything you need for your house. And they got 9 locations.
All right, Coach, in our remaining minutes, you have continued a very, very busy spring schedule all over the country. Coach Safely, your work continues there. Give us an update. What's going on?
Yeah, brand new website just came out, coachsafely.org. You've referred to it many times. We're weeks away on our app. We've got half our modules inputted, whereas 11, it's a brand new. And I think just from the safety standpoint, people are going to love it. There's going to be so many great things on there. We're going to branch out more pieces of that, but just things like overuse injury and coaching the youth athlete, besides your normal CPR and concussions and things like that are important. But taking off Alabama, Georgia, Louisiana, we think we'll get this law passed. Y'all saw the Governor Landry where we honor Dr. Andrews in front. Hopefully we'll have that new law in Louisiana, Indiana. So we're moving.
You get that thing sealed over a game of pickleball with Lane.
Yeah.
You'll keep your shirt on, I know.
Yeah, I won't be doing hot yoga.
He has a tendency of taking his off.
I've noticed that, yeah. But if he says a good word about Coach Safely now,
Hey, you're all for it.
Everybody's
I'm
shirtless.
his buddy.
Yeah. I mean, the infamous clip of him playing pickleball with his shirt off, but Kirby Smart had his shirt on.
Right, yeah. That was kind of their little back and forth, wasn't it?
Very much so.
Kirby's done a commercial. It's Great America.
Kirby realized you didn't have to skin off to play pickleball.
Right, that's right. Lane just happened to
Bless
take his
his
shirt off.
heart. Lane.
Yeah. Hot yoga.
No, you
pickleball.
said Indiana soon, right?
We hope. Yeah,
governor
we had a good
is
call
very-
with Governor Braun. He's
Awesome.
yeah, that'll be a next year thing, but he's very very supportive.
Well, one thing's for sure, and I know I've said it before, and I'm not placating to him, but I've taken the course. I had to take it for years, coaching my kids out in Trussville, because we were the first municipality to come on board with CoachSafely.org before it became a state law. We were kind of like the initial program.
Guinea pig.
And it not only helped me out as a coach, but it helped out parents and other people that are coaching young ones. You want them to be able to have this, and that's what CoachSafely.org is all about.
Yeah, and I think so many people think of just the true devastating injuries, which we don't want.
Yeah.
But also just some things in there. There's some mental health in there, and I've had coaches tell me, I was dealing with a child who lost their grandfather.
Yeah.
But just some of these little things that I think will make such a difference. And like we said, so they'll play.
That is Coach Bill Clark. This has been the Coach Bill Clark Show, presented by Buffalo Rock, Dr. Pepper. For Molly Robinson, Landry Roberts, I'm Pat Smith. That's Coach Bill Clark. We'll see you next time on Buffalo Rock, Dr. Pepper's Bill Clark Show.
This has been the Bill Clark Show, presented by